football like Gaza, I had Robbie Keane, Van der Vaart, and such a great team of players. And when they arrived here, they were all totally in awe of what they were seeing. Now these are people that have seen every stadium in the world, and they said they've never seen anything like this. I mean, it is an absolutely incredible place. We now have been voted the best stadium in the world. Southern Aussie hosted Franz Beckenbauer 3 years ago at the training ground. Beckenbauer said it's the best training ground he's ever seen. We've got the best stadium in the world, we've got the best training ground in the world, and the way things are going, next season we could be fighting for every major honour that's available. Because we will get that Champions League spot. That will mean Conte, Kane will stay, a big spending spree in the summer, a couple of wing backs, attacking midfield player, another striker, and who knows, if Liverpool lose, they could lose Mane, they could lose Salah, things will change in Man City. We will be pushing for every major title next season. If things go as they hopefully will go, my glass is always half full. So, we'll say, hey, welcome to the new stadium. We'll have a great day together, we'll have a lot of questions later, have a great tours together, so great to be here with you, and hopefully you have a most wonderful day.
It's our wall of first team players for each decade. So you can have a look at this in a little bit more detail later on the tour, but you'll notice right from the left hand side here how, before we had substitutions, before we had sort of international European players coming to the club, how few players we had in each decade and how things have changed going over to your right hand side there. Obviously we've got Gary here in the 1980s, as I said, 1982 to 1998, FA Cup winner, captain of the FA Cup winning team, UEFA Cup winner as well. We'll learn a little bit more about that when we go into the West Atrium in a second or two. 1982.
Well, I started my career at Bristol Rovers. I grew up in Bristol. I would tell I haven't changed my accent. Although, just a quick one, funny enough, when I became captain of Spurs, I did a lot more interviews, and the BBC said to me, did an interview, said, look, Gary, if you want to, because BBC then liked to have no accents. Now you have to have the most ridiculous accent to get on the BBC. But then, they like to have like a pretty even keel. So they said, look, Gary, you realise that we can work with you if you want to lose the accent. I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, how do you do that? They said, well, quite simple. West Country people, the R's, you roll your R's. So they say, say hamburger, or say door. Okay. So how we do it is, okay, what we'll give you, so for, how do you say D-O-O-R? I'll say door. They say, okay, we will say, every time you say that word, you say D-A-W, open the door. You please open the door, please. So every word they can change phonetically so that you're saying the word but not with the accent. I said to the guy, I said, with all due respect, I grew up in Bristol, I'm from Bristol, I'm actually quite happy. So 40 years later, being here in London, I've still got my West Country accent. Anyway, that's real aside there, sorry about that. But I went to grammar school in Bristol. I did my O-levels. I was the youngest boy in my year because my birthday's the end of August. So after my O-levels, I was offered an apprenticeship at Bristol Rovers. So I went there signed when I was 15 and had 5 years at Bristol Rovers. Played 138 games and scored 12 goals, just to be precise. And then my contract was up. That's when freedom of contract was just about to come into the game. It was very different then. So basically, you were allowed to write to any football club you wanted to, saying, my contract is up, this is what I've achieved so far in my career, do you want to sign me or give me a trial? So I wrote to every first division club in the country. I got 2 replies. One from Aston Villa saying, sorry Gary, can't even offer you a trial. Thank you very much. I hope they regret it now. And Birmingham City, who were a mid-table first division team, but a decent side. Ron Saunders was manager at Birmingham. Went down to Birmingham, had a good conversation. You know, you want to be playing in the middle of midfield there. They had a tough side there. People like Mick Harford, Noel Blake, Mark Dennis. It was like a real tough side. They wanted me in the midfield there. So I came back from Birmingham thinking, well, he'll call me tomorrow, he said, just to discuss contractual terms. Anyway, the phone rang the following morning, picked up the phone, said, oh, hi, it's Gary. He said, oh, it's Bill Nicholson here. So of course, obviously, Bill Nicholson, chief scout of Spurs at the time. He said, Gary, I've seen you play, I've seen your name available on the list. I think you've got the potential to be a Spurs player. Do you want to come up and have a chat? So I drove up the following day, I came up to White Hart Lane, and I've got to be honest and say it, and it always sounds a bit cheesy when I say it, but when I drove through the wrought iron gates of the old White Hart Lane, I just knew this is where I wanted to be. So Bill showed me around the stadium, then Bill took me to the training ground to meet Keith Birkinshaw, who was the manager. I arrived at the training ground, the first team had all finished training, they're all in the canteen, so I got in the canteen with Bill Nick and met Keith. As I walked in there, I looked around me, every player that I saw, were international players, superstar names of the game of football. I'd only ever seen them before, either on Match of the Day or on Top of the Pops. So, and it was just incredible. And Keith said, look, Gary, I don't think Keith, to be honest, actually really knew much about me. I think it was all from Bill Nick. I think Keith said, look, Gary, I've taken Bill's word, he's seen me plenty of times. He said, but Gary, let me just say to you that you can see in front of you, we've got a whole squad of international players. And we'll work with you to turn you into a Tottenham player. It may take you 2 or 3 years to get into the first team. But if you're prepared to work with us, we will sign you. So I said, yeah, I was prepared for that. So literally, that was on the second week into July. The third week in July, we had a pre-season tour to go to Norway. Now, we had a couple of injuries in training. So I was selected to go on the tour as part of the first team squad. Got to Norway, first game in Norway, I was substitute. Second game in Norway, had a couple of injuries in the first game. I was put in to the middle of midfield, and I stayed there for 16 years. So, literally, 1 week I was at Bristol Rovers playing, next week I was playing in the pre-season. I played my first game in England at Wembley in the Charity Shield against Liverpool, and that was literally 3 weeks after I signed for Bristol Rovers. I mean, people say to me, how can that possibly happen? Of course, I've moved up a level with playing with better players and standard of football, but I have got absolutely no idea. I just felt, even in training or in matches, I felt totally relaxed, totally comfortable, and it was weird because it was like I've been here all my life. And as I said, how I fitted in so quickly, I said, I haven't got an answer. But literally, so then the week after that was the first game of the season, first game in Division 1, we're at home to Luton, made my debut here. You can imagine all the fans looking at their programmes and seeing all these used to multi-million pound signings, suddenly there's like Gary Mabbott, 100 million, they don't make it. I just breezed it here. I mean, I didn't even have a thought about what the other do. I never thought about it. I just went out, first training session, and thrown in there, and suddenly I was, I just felt comfortable. And I didn't feel, never once felt out of place. I'm playing alongside like Ojardini, Glenn Hoddle, Steve Perriman, Ray Clements, all the big names of the game of football. And as I said, I just breezed in and suddenly got my place. So yeah, it was an incredible sort of moment for me. Finals, and Johan Cruyff was playing for Feyenoord, and I was given the job of man marking Johan Cruyff. It was billed as the Glenn Hoddle the Johan Cruyff game, and at half time we were winning 3-0. Glenn scored one, made the other two. So Glenn had absolutely run the show completely. I did quite a good job on Johan Cruyff, although it was at the end of his career, so I'll give him a bit of credit for that. No, I mean, to play in big games like that in the European stage, and getting to the final, we drew over in Anderlecht, we drew over there 1-1, came back here, and there was very difficult to choose between the teams, to be fair, and it could have gone either way. They went 1-0 up here, we equalised with Bear Roberts in the second half. Has gone to extra time, and then still drawing penalties. Now, I honestly believe it was the Spurs fans who won the UEFA Cup in 1984. I'll explain why. We got through the penalties, 2 or 3 have been taken, and then it's all level. Danny Thomas has come up to take a penalty. He's missed. So you can imagine the whole stadium just gone like, and he's got his head in his hand on the penalty spot. But as he stood up, to turn around and went back to the halfway line, which is quite a long walk when you miss the penalty, the whole stadium started singing, there's only one Danny Thomas. And he just kept singing it, and it's, you know, it must be like 10, 15 seconds by the time they didn't stop. And that gave every other player who had to take a penalty the knowledge that even if he missed, the fans loved him. The fans loved him. Yeah? They're there, they're supporting us, no matter what happened in that game, the fans were still with him. And that raised Tony Parks' adrenaline as well. We went out there after that. Parksy made that fantastic save at the end and won us a UEFA Cup. And what a night. We came out here, it must have been by midnight by now. There used to be an old building with a balcony outside of White Hart Lane. We came there with the trophy. The police had to shut the whole of the high road.
To our 4 season ticket holders, and depending on where you sit at this level, anywhere between sort of £2,500 and £6,500. The bars each side, you saw one when we came up the escalators, and this one are very similar in that. Obviously, it's sort of not fine dining by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly really nice dining. I know when we go upstairs to level 4, Gary, you'll see the other side.
You don't want that?
Extra job, I'm asking for it. Extra bonus for being a doorman.
Is there a good retirement package, Gary? You've got room for that. Yeah, just missed the first step. Yeah.
Stand, 17,500 single tier stand. The rake of the stand is at 34 degrees and the legal limit is 35 degrees. And when the stadium was designed and built, Daniel Levy wanted to ensure that the fans were as close to the pitch as possible. And that's one of the reasons why we get so much noise here, is the fact that the design of it is such that the fans are extremely close. Again, at the south stand, you'll see I've got a cockerel up there on the roof. That's part of our skywalk as well as our emblem as well. It's a complete replica, albeit about twice the size of the original cockerel. It shows all the dents and abrasions of the original that was on the east and west stands at various times. So that's our south stand. You see the two giant screens that end as well as the ones at this end. These screens, if you put them all together, they're larger than all the rest of the screens in Premier League clubs in London, including Wembley as well. So it gives you this idea of the size as well of those. These two at this end, they've got screens behind those screens. So just looking right at the back, okay, you can see a magnificent view of the pitch, but what you can't see is any VAR.
I think you can see for yourselves, no stone was left unturned, and it was very scrimping on the costs to build this stadium. We're expecting it to be around £800,000 million facility to start with, and then we went over the billion mark to build. So you can imagine every single thing in here is the best possible. The facilities, the seating, we've got seating for all different days. We've had games here for our main partners. So AIA, Getir, Cinch, so all our main partners, Barclays, Premier League, they've all been given over for one day to their company to use the stadium to play a match on the turf. So myself and Ledley were here for 2 days, being managers of the team, and again, it's then to come out here and play on the pitch. Now you look at the pitch here, the pitches in this day and age are obviously very different. But say we've got a stadium here that you can use it for anything. We've got big concerts, Guns N' Roses, Lady Gaga. Yeah, we've got AJ Boxing was here, the rugby, the NFL. It has been purpose built as well for an NFL stadium. So it meets all the criteria. Obviously, the atmosphere running the full stadium and we're playing well. Well, not playing well, it's not so great. But say when it's rocking, so yeah, you've got everything you possibly need. And I mentioned earlier, the team is still work in progress, but we're getting there. So, but say that no, I mean, we've got everything that we need now to be one of the top teams in the world, and that's what we're aiming for. We want at least Champions League every single season. And we need trophies, we have a real strong push year in, year out for the title. That's what our aim is. And there we go, that's the chair of the street now. No? It's raining, it's windy, it's from the front of the
It's more like a 6-star hotel that happens to have a football pitch next to it in terms of dining experience. So think about the Ritz or the Savoy or Dorchester and that. But Gary, you're up here quite often as a club ambassador. What's your experience here in the H Club?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, so there's 3 main ambassadors at the moment, myself, Nedley and Ozzy. 2 of us will be up here, 1 of us will be in the Tunnel Club. We change it around. The Tunnel Club we'll see later is also a very exclusive place, very special. Here, you can come here, and even if you come here and you watch a game like the Brighton game, your whole day's not spoiled because you're getting served a beautiful 5-course, beautiful meal. You can relax, you can enjoy it, at least to have that sorrow that you see out there, somewhat posh when you come back in here. So I'm saying, this is the H Club. We'll show you over there. Do you go around there in a minute? Yeah. There's the players' table where the 2 of us will sit on match days, and then we have people who can be invited or they'll pay extra to come into there and sit with us to dine on match days. The vault on our right here is that's probably the most expensive, probably individual places apart from the boxes. I think 6 or 8 people, and they've got their own stores there locked up. They bring in their own whiskies, their brandies, their champagnes, all stored for them. Day before the games, they're asked what they require. They'll get it out. They'll put it in the fridges for them. So when they arrive, all their drinks are at the temperature that they want. I know what they pay season-wise. Season-wise, it's looking about probably £800 a person.
£700-800 per person for that one-off experience.
Yeah.
And please God let they win.
Yeah.
And not lose one.
Yeah. Well, that will be for the Platinum games: Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, Man United.
Okay.
So they're the
ultimate.
top. Yeah. You're going to pay £30,000 to be a member, and then it's £35,000 for 2 years. I think 2 years for 2. So £65,000 for 2 years you want to pay. So that probably works out. Yeah. So
and for that, I presume the food is thrown in. You're not paying on top of that. The drink is thrown in. It's all inclusive.
they get the best champagnes, the best brandies, the best whiskey, whatever they ask for, they get. So they'll be served with it would be Moet Chandon, it would be the pink champagne, it would be everything that they want there. Doesn't quite go to the Dom Perignon level of champagne, but the next level down is the best champagnes.
Ladies and gents, please come through.
I took 60 last year, so I'm not old yet.
Gary, his experiences of this type of area. Just tell you what goes on here on a match day. Now, there's two things happen in terms of when the players arrive. They'll either arrive all together, because they may have stayed overnight at the Hotspur Way and stayed in the nice comfy beds there, and then they're arriving for a game.
Well, again, nothing's really changed. We always arrive 3 hours before a match. Now, players, generally, we used to drive to the stadiums, and then we'd have our lunch at the stadiums at White Hart Lane. The meals, people talk about the changes, the meals have been exactly the same now as they were then. We had choices either of proteins, we had chicken, we had fish, you couldn't have meats, you could only have carbohydrates, toast, so you could have tea, water, pastas, but that is generally what you eat before a match. It's still the same today as it was then. 3 hours before a game is the prime time to eat before a game to get the best out of it. So yeah, I mean, nothing's really changed in that aspect. What has changed is obviously we've got a hotel at our training grounds. They can stay there sometimes and come in for a game if necessary, especially the morning kickoffs. But yes, as far as that, nothing's changed. As far as the media are always chasing you, good or bad. When I was captain for 11 years here, and when I was captain, a lot of managers and clubs, and chairman I'm sure, and players, they'll get friendly with their own newspaper. Their own newspaper will then always try, even if you've had a bad game, try and make you sound in a good way. So the club, so all things, there's a lot of spin put into everything in this day and age, especially social media, and even then, everyone had their own paper that they knew. Papers, so if you got one paper, their paper then will destroy you because you're giving interviews to one certain paper. Personally, when I was captain, every single newspaper, every single TV station had my phone number. So if I had to represent the team for any issues, good or bad, they had my number, they could call me. So I wasn't, others were being paid to be working for, give their stories to certain papers. I didn't do that because as captain that wouldn't be right. So as a spokesman for the team, basically. So yeah, everyone had my number, and they still have. So basically, my number has not changed since the very first day I bought a mobile phone. And maybe it's got the extra O on it, an extra something, but the actual number itself is the same as it was 25 years ago. So yeah, so you can still get hold of me, but of course, come out here after game. I've got Ferrari and Bentleys at home. Yeah, but there are players that have. Some players have 4 or 5 cars.
What's Kingsman's right? He was quite humble. He had a lot quite humble.
Jürgen did things very well. He was very humble when he came here. He arrived at matches and things and training in a Volkswagen Beetle. Yeah, Volkswagen Beetle. At home in the garage was a Ferrari and a Range Rover. That didn't go with the image that created. So yes, he had a. Oh, I didn't say that. Anything I've said in here, okay, when you go out of here, I was Graham Roberts.
No one's attracted to this corner at all.
That's all right sitting now.
Okay, so welcome to the away dressing room. What people think, but I think it's a very good facility, quite luxurious. I'm sure Gary's going to tell us a tale or two about some of the away dressing rooms he's been to in a minute or two. But we've had some really good plaudits. When Ajax were here a few seasons ago, they complimented the club that this was the best away facility that they had come across in their travels throughout Europe. And when Liverpool were here, first of all, Jurgen Klopp said more or less the same thing as well. So, we want to look after our, we've played in some of the best stadiums and possibly not so best stadiums as well around the country and overseas as well. One or two little tidbits from your travels around and opponents you played?
Yeah, I mean, most stadiums I played at, they would, so the dressing room, the physio's room, the bath, the shower rooms, everything would fit into this one room. So that's basically the difference. And my daughter's absolutely amazed when I tell them about it, but basically every stadium had a bath, one big bath that, you know, after the game, 16 grown men covered in sweat, mud, whatever, would all jump into the bath together, and obviously with no clothes on to get themselves clean. And my daughters find that a very weird concept. You always try to get in the bath early, otherwise by the time you got in late there'd be a nice layer of scum on the top. So yes, things were very different, shall we say, in those days. And I say those days, it wasn't like, those days, you talk about the 1940s or 50s, but you know, I'm talking about sort of the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s for clubs. But no, what we supply now, you've probably seen as you came in there, the first door on the left, it's a female coach's dressing room. So clubs now have female masseurs, female coaches, whatever. So yeah, it's all in place. Big physio's room through there. Bathrooms through here, manager's room outside to the right, I think it is. So no, it's all very, very special. Wimbledon, they had like, I'm not kidding, they had a room that was, you could fit into here probably 5 times. It was tiny. And, you know, wooden walls, their rooms right next door, banging on the walls, telling them how they're going to beat us, really. And they'd beat us at Plough Lane, ever. But it was horrible, horrible. You walk in there, and actually it was so horrible that it got your adrenaline pumping. Because, yeah, excuse me, they didn't even try to make any, yeah, it wouldn't be clean, or yeah, excuse me. So no, well, we've gone the other way totally, and said, make them as comfortable as you possibly can. Give them everything that they require, everything that they need, and so they're all feeling relaxed. And hopefully we can go out there and absolutely tank them out on the field. Of course, I'm not sure what happened with the Brighton game. Sorry, anyway, when we get people coming here, mention Jurgen Klopp, Ajax, I brought my own friends here from around the world, and again, when I bring them here, they think it's the home dressing room initially, because of the size of it. But in fact, this is actually bigger than actually the home dressing room, I think, the actual dressing room part of it. But we don't have a home dressing room, we have a full suite of
Rooms. This whole corridor that you're going to see is all for Spurs on a match day. This particular area is very sort of used what they call pre-act, which is pre-activation. So it's used before the game, sort of very gentle exercises. They'll lay mats down and rollers down and just do some.
Gentleman Russell here who's talking us through things. Now they come in to do a pre-act. Excuse me? We said pre-act. What the heck is that? You know, it's the same as what we used to do. It was called a warm-up. You know, stretch your muscles, get yourself ready for the game. So the game is coming to all these things that are thrown in there. It sounds very posh. Come in here to stretch yourself. But this is saying, this is again, White Hart Lane, you can fit the dressing room and the bathroom in this room. And again, it's where players walk home just to warm up, so yeah, have a chat, whatever, do before the games, whatever they have to do. They say, always tell me there are no footballs in here, but I can't believe it, because I know full well in my day, Gaza would have smashed every one of those. But again, everyone around the thing is, obviously around the room you see all the thing on the wall, believe in your teammates, you know, obviously teamwork, everywhere there are things. The one over there when I first came in, Co, Ura and Gay I thought were on you, signings in the transfer window. Obviously it says courage. I finally worked out for myself. That's even after my 5-0 level, so there we go. But no, it's all built to get players ready, that's what this room is for. You know, believe in your teammate, everything is in here is get yourself ready for a game, focus, and that's basically what this is for.
Okay. Alright guys, we're going to go next door now to the actual dressing room. Please take Harry, the central dressing room, in the middle. Well here. For our tours, we just line the shirts up in numerical order, but I know that Antonio tends to prefer to have all the strikers together and then the midfield players and the defenders as well. The screen behind me, this is a touch screen, so if there was I think you mentioned some of it already when you're quite hard lane.
Yes, so I was here for the very first game, senior game here. I was the manager, and it was great. You had a well control, and you set it up beforehand. You push a button, up comes the team for the day. Push a button, up comes the formation. Up comes who you're marking for set pieces. All that sort of stuff. Just like standing here, push button on the screen there behind me. So all that's very, very easy. And you can do what you want in here. As a manager, you can have everything on the screens. The smaller screens there to show individual players different things, as Russell was saying. But no, we have at this club now, we have a no excuse policy. Basically, from the training ground and here, the players were consulted before they were built and said, what do you want in your dressing room? What do you need to have? And so everything, the training ground, they wanted a pitch and putt course or putting course, that is there. They wanted a big areas like a first class lounge in an airport where they've got beds, things, or couches. They've got actually their own separate cinema. They go in a big screen and watch films on big beds to on their own separate cinema at the training ground. So they basically lived there the whole time if they wanted to. So they've got everything, meaning that they can't come back after a game the following day and say, yeah, but my training grounds are full of mud, it's awful, you've got nothing. No excuse policy. If we've got a problem with the team, a problem with the player, it's down to them. So getting into their heads, they've got to get themselves right. There's nothing in their heads that they can use as an excuse for a performance, etc. So that's what we have here. And that's why you see all the things they've got, the saves, I mean, when I was playing at White Hart Lane in my second year there, not saying I didn't have it now, but I had a gold chain with a gold football on it. Not a massive one down here, by the way, just a short one. Came in after the game and it had gone. So they've now got safes for all their watches that probably cost more than I earned in my whole career. So yeah, everything's there for them, as you say. It's all done, it's all set up nicely. It's shaped like this, as Russell mentioned, so that the manager can see everyone just at the turn of his head. And when you're having a bad game, you didn't really want that, you're probably hiding in the corner, but you can't get away with it now. But no, again, the whole way it's all set up, everything in here is absolutely the highest class you will get. Oh, by the way, walk down the corridor, you'll see there a couple of pictures of me somewhere. One of them is me in my blonde days, lovely blonde hair, my new romantic era, my Duran Duran Spandau time. So you'll see me with lovely blonde hair coming.
Dining experience. One of our club's legends would accompany them, usually on that table there, and they talk around the current team, what's going on, but also how they're.
Yes, when they first discussed this, I was against it. I've been in many tunnels in my career, and there have been fights, there have been messy things going off, teams fighting, the arguing, the trouble. I didn't think that was what you really wanted fans to see. But we got to, if anything, like even if a sub comes off and you have to throw these things around, there's a button there that we push, and I'm sure Russ will show you, that brings down the screen that this is blanked off. So if anything is going to kick off, anything starts to kick off or could kick off, someone's there all the time watching and just can push a button and then no one in here can see anything. So, but apart from that, they can sit here, and that's the other side. I thought it should have been completely blacked out from the other side, because you don't want people standing here at the bottom of Moe Shandon and think, all the lads are like, go back and play a game, and standing there like. So I didn't think it was right for they to be able to see it, but they've left it, it's very dark, but not totally dark. I'd have made it totally, you can't see it at all from the outside. But no, as I said, this is a lounge again, it's very expensive. I think it's 30 grand for membership, then 30 grand for 2 years or something for £35 or something for 2 years. But you get everything free in here, so and the meals served are stunning meals. You will not get, probably the best restaurants in London are comparable to what they get served here. I have some issues at times because I'm a diabetic, and they're all, most meals, they come out, they look like someone's been working on it for like a whole day to make a plate of food. Is that, the actual food is sort of about that much. For a diabetic that needs carbohydrates, so normally I have to have 2 or 3 rolls before I actually sit down and have my meal because to cover my insulin. But no, that's what the meals are. They're absolutely stunning. And I say, they get pink, low A's, pink, whatever you want to drink, champagne, wine, whatever.
Entrance on that side of the visitors. It's a bit of an optical illusion because when you come out of that side, you're going to look bigger because it's quite a narrow to the visitors. So, this position ready to take the team out before the game?
No, I mentioned before about arriving here and feeling comfortable. So, I played 619 games, I've done everything, I ever walked out feeling nervous. I never ever missed any sleep because of a game. I was never worrying about a game. It was never something to worry about. I've got a thing in all my life that if I've got a problem and do something about it, I do it immediately, get rid of that problem. If I've got a problem that I cannot change or cannot help or cannot do anything about it, I waste not 1 second stressing or worrying about it. So, hence, matches coming up the following day, whether you're playing in a friendly or a cup final, it's all the same to me. I didn't worry about it, it doesn't happen the following day, and so I was lucky in that way. I was quite strong. If you went in the goal, the fans went mad. If you missed the goal, they go, oh, they came out. It didn't bother me whether they went in or not. You know. Players would come, they would have to fold their towel or whatever in the dressing room the same way, or touch the door on the way out.
Here, we wouldn't be able to do that if we had the NFL pitch out because.
Yeah, so I know I'm not sure if the ashes went here, removed. I'm not sure if they were, but it'll be said that they were, I'm sure.
Come nearer, boys. In the visitors' dressing room for the football side of things. Coach Larry here is our man that knows the NFL better than anybody. So just for a few minutes, I'm going to hand over to Larry. He'll tell you a bit around the NFL and how we provide these facilities here at Tottenham.
Thank you, Russ. Nice to see Gary and you guys, of course. Gary and I have done this a few times now. I know you're a Dolphins fan.
Yeah, Dolphins is my colours, my team.
We love the Dolphins.
You're not either. You're
I'm a Jacksonville Jags fan. I sound like I'm from Seven Sisters Road, and I kind of am, but I went to school in the US. I worked for NFL in the 80s and joined the London Monarchs in the 90s. You might remember that name when we had our home games at Wembley Stadium, and Clive Allen was our kicker. Very badly, he says always. So, yeah, we were together for a while there, and in 07, NFL started to play competitive games outside of the US, and we played at Wembley for over 10 years. And in 2019, we joined Spurs, because obviously you know our field, our pitch, is underneath the Spurs pitch. And this is, as Russell said earlier, I'm sure you mentioned, this is the away locker space. Lots of people think we share, and we don't. This is one team only, and there are at least 53 of us as players on a match day. That's 20 coaching staff on top of that, and 20 physios as part of the physio team. So this space is quite small in comparison to the home locker room, which is on the other side of the stadium, on the east. The tunnel entrance is they're going to be up against the Vikings, and then Green Bay Packers are quite a really strong, famous team. They're going to be our second home team, and they're playing the Giants. The home team normally stays with us for a week. They have a lot of Spurs connection and a lot of Spurs orientation during the week, from sightseeing to a community day, free practice, and then the match. The away team normally arrive on the Friday. They have free practice on the field on Saturday, play the game Sunday, and strangely they leave straight from here back to Stansted Airport and fly back. Both teams have a bye week, so you don't play in the home fixtures or away fixtures in NFL if you play in London. You always have a bye week off. Every team during the season has a bye week. We're trying to encourage more teams to play in Europe. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers are playing at Bayern Munich this year. I don't know if you knew that, actually.
Yeah.
They're playing in Munich, yeah. My team, the Jags, they're back at Wembley. They've been there 7 or 8 years in a row. They were here with us last year. But we've got our 2 fixtures in place. And just quickly, Russ, just to make a point, we're going to encourage more games per year. We wouldn't have gone through all of this relationship with Spurs and the trouble with the build and everything else, the cost, unless we can extend the profile to more than 10 games, maybe up to 16 games a season outside of the US in Europe. So that's what we do.
So are the Jaguars going to be our franchise?
Well, this is an
Big
important
question.
question. Yeah, I worked with the Jaguars at Wembley a couple of days ago because they're back at Wembley. The answer is possibly not. They might not be. There are other teams that are vying to be the London-based team. If the Jags don't take up that position, it could be the Raiders. They're in Las Vegas at the moment. They've moved from Oakland to LA and back again a few times now. They're now in Las Vegas. They're having a 3-year tenure at their new stadium, but they don't have a fan base. They only have tourists as their fans. They need a fan base. They are very well liked in the UK. They could be the London Raiders. It means they commute to play. They won't be living here. They'll still have their training facility at home in the US. Their families will still be the way they are. You get on a plane, you come to London, you play, you go home. We call it commute to play. We could have a London team like the Raiders or the Jags, or we could have every team once playing in Europe once in the year, which will be 32 teams, 16 games. So Spurs are handily placed to be in the mix, to be the hosts. I think that's it, guys.
Hey, I've got even bigger questions for you.
One more.
Are there any development plans that we are going to build at our training centre, a training ground purely for NFL?
This is a great question, and one I can answer freely. The answer is yes. At the moment, we use the Sofex. So when the home team comes, they use the home of Saracens, which was the old Allianz, which is in northwest London. They're there for almost a week, as I said. They have used the Spurs facilities, but Spurs, of course, have their football programme that they're playing, so we make sure we don't encumber each other. We never see them, they never see us. So the answer
Secrets. Do you prefer American football or English football?
American football. That's because I'm a QPR fan. I love Clive Allen. We have the press here, Spurs TV at the back. They're all linked up with Wi-Fi and everything. If we're playing in Europe, we have to have our translators. They sit over here in this booth here. That's the UEFA requirement. And it, really, it is what it is. If it's not being used for football purposes, we can use it as a cinema. And it was used as a cinema over the Easter holidays because we had guests coming here watching a film before they went on their tour as well. But Gary, have you ever faced a sort of press room like this in terms of your career when you were playing?
No, never to any stadium, no. I mean, this is like a cinema. And again, it can be used on a daily basis for companies to do presentations, to do any of their company work. So yeah, as I said, it's a stadium for everything. I was in here after the Spurs Legends game. Had to come in here and try and explain how Paul Gascoigne came on and had to come off after 5 minutes because he got injured in his warm-up. It's taken us a month to get him looked after to make sure he's going to be okay for the game. Brilliant. Got him training. He was brilliant for the game. Did the warm-up, sat there. Brilliant. Told him, hey, you're going on in 5 minutes. Have a warm-up. Run up and down the line. When I came back to me, I have to pull my knee. I can't run. Can't move. The whole stadium's here, come to see you. So you've got to go on. So anyway, we put him on, but he could barely move, so bless him. So, But again, why I'm coming here is because obviously the media were thinking that they want this to be the centrepiece of, when everyone comes to music, sport into London, they want this to be their go-to place. So and it's working. The NFL love it because it's purpose built for NFL. No, Wembley is not. As I say, this is purpose built for NFL. So as I say, we've got such big crowds, and it's a massive captive country. The only stadium that's purpose built for NFL is here. So we're in a very good position to build on our future.
Okay, all right then, guys. So this bit of the tour is really the end, but we're now going to go to the players' lounge.
We're playing against Coventry. We had the team we assembled in 1986-87, in my opinion, was the best team throughout my 16 years here. We had Ray Clements in goal, started the season, Danny Thomas right back, Chris Hewson left back, myself and Richard Goff was my best partner in the back I ever had here at Spurs. A five-man midfield of Paul Allen, Steve Hodge, Chrissy Waddle, Len Hoddle and Ozzy Ardiles, and Clive Allen up front on his own. Clive scored 49 goals that season, which is still a record to this day, and he will tell you he could have scored 100 goals that season. Our football was fantastic. We had one of the best defensive records ever. So it was the almost but not quite season. We came in second or third in the league, got the semi-final of the League Cup, then the final of the FA Cup. We're playing Coventry. Now Coventry were a mid-table team. Had some decent players, Cyril Regis, God rest his soul. There's decent players in their side, but the way we've been playing, we were the odds-on favourites. Now, I always have to say this, but we did not disrespect Coventry in any way, shape or form. We gave them the utmost respect, planned the game accordingly, and it was just one of those days. We went out there, we took the lead early on, Clive Allen scored, then Dave Bennett equalised for Coventry, then we got a free kick out wide, Glenn Hoddle took the free kick, it's been whipped into the box, I'm being marked by a man mounting called Brian Kilcline, and I see Grizovic, the keeper, coming for it, he's going to miss it. So I've come in behind him, Kilcline's got with me, and I throw my leg at the ball, he's got to try and clear it, and literally I must have got the biggest touch, the ball just bounced off me, just bounced over the line. So walking in at half time, my first ever FA Cup final, look up at above the tunnel, the massive scoreboards, Spurs 2, Coventry 1, there's my name up in lights, little did I know. Second half, Keith Houchin, excellent goal, Richard Goff let him go, I still don't ever forget it. So it was 2-2, and then extra time. My left back has gone AWOL, Mitchell Thomas, don't know where he's gone, he's disappeared. They've broken into the space on our left-hand side, on the edge of the box. So Lloyd McGrath has broken into that space. So I'm playing left side centre half, so I've had to come across, Goffy's come across, I come across to block the cross into the box. That's what you always do. 99 times out of 100 in the season, the ball will hit your leg and go out for a corner, hit your leg and roll into Ray Clements' arms, or hit your leg, drop to your feet, and you'll clear the ball. On this one small occasion, the ball just clipped the top of my knee, and as I turned, I could see it looping over Ray Clements into the far corner. I went down on my haunches, I couldn't believe it. But we got up, we did everything to get back in the game, we fought so hard, but the final whistle went, and it's the only FA Cup final that Spurs have ever lost. And I scored the winning goal. They changed, get back on our coach, come back to White Hart Lane, where the whole pitch is covered in a marquee. 1,000 people have paid a fortune to come back to the celebratory dinner under the marquee at White Hart Lane. So we all had to turn up for this evening after losing the FA Cup. And I'm not sure what's worse, to be honest. The players had a lot to drink that night, as you'd imagine, drowning their sorrows. And what was worse, actually losing the FA Cup or having to listen to Hoddle and Waddle sing Diamond Lights about 20 times on the stage, absolutely trashed. And it gets worse, even worse, believe me. Following morning, all booked up, cannot be changed. We've got an open-top bus tour from White Hart Lane down the high road to the Haringey Council offices to meet with the mayor. All the roads were blocked, can't be cancelled. We had to go out onto this open-top bus after losing the FA Cup. We pulled out of White Hart Lane. There's one man and his dog out there. There was, bless him, a couple who had a massive banner. Gary, we don't blame you. Oh, cheers. Anyway, sometimes when God shuts a door, he opens a window. And I'm an absolute legend in Coventry. I've got free food and drink for life. Their actual club fanzine is called GMK, Gary Mabbutt's knee. Go on the internet, GMK, look at Coventry's fanzine magazine. They had an internet vote 3 years ago for the most influential player in Coventry's history. And yes, you've got it, I won the vote. So, I mentioned before about how I try and treat things in life. All of us, every single one of us, whether it be in our private lives, work, business, whatever, we all have setbacks. We all have things thrown at us, curveballs, whatever. And to me, it's how you handle those setbacks that makes you the person that you are. And I've always tried to use every single setback that I've had, I'm sure like all of you, I've had quite a few, as a stepping stone to move forward. Hence the question was, I got a question out here as well, how was I after that cup final? People say to me, did you have to go to counselling? How did you cope with it? How did you get back into the game? All these questions. And I said, honestly, within 24 hours, it's behind me. I've given everything like Rijkaard, Ruud Gullit and Van Basten up front. But Johan Cruyff growing up. And then best player I played with, it's a bit of a trick question, trick answer. I played in Spurs once. I was playing in midfield at the time, and there was myself in the middle of midfield. I had 3 other midfielders alongside me. I had Ozzy Ardiles, Glenn Hoddle, and Diego Maradona. It was Ozzy's testimonial game, and so Maradona got to play alongside me that day. So that was a great occasion. But then, 10 years later, or 10 years ago, I was picked for a FIFA World 11 to play in Cape Town for Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday celebrations. And we had a fantastic team, the FIFA World team. We had Buchigueno, Zubi Zareta, we had Christian Carambo, we had Ruud Gullit, and our strikers